Hello, and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I'm your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Jennifer Hildebrand, who is the president and CEO of Professional Engineering Services Limited. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, would you mind kicking us off with just a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and the type of business that you're in?
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be a part of this cast today, and I'm really excited to share some messages with other folks out there who are maybe running a business, thinking of running a business, or maybe currently in a business feeling a little defeated, which is certainly bound to happen and has happened to me. I have the fortunate opportunity to work with what I think, maybe a little bit biased, the best civil construction support company in the entire United States. But we are about 40 people, and we offer civil design support services along with construction support services for really road, bridge, and any other infrastructure um, construction related projects. So we tend to focus on ensuring that projects are built properly with good quality and an adherence to a proper project schedule and budget. So that is our collection of 40 people, and we have combined experience of 30 years, which is where I come to this business, and even more than that, and folks who are brand new to the industry as well. So I have the luxury every day of working with some of the finest folks in this business, I believe.
Oh, great. Thank you for that introduction. Before the show, we were talking a little bit about the fact that you actually purchased this business. And so one of the ways into owning a business is the ability to purchase it. What was that spark that led you to select this type of business? And how did you know the timing was right for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, it's funny because if you'd ask my husband, he would tell you that I'd been talking about this for all 30 years of my professional career. So, but the spark that really, I think, generated my action surrounding the activity is that I had the ability to work for some great companies in the past, companies that were, thousands of people and companies that were hundreds of people. And what was unique, perhaps, in my viewpoint of it, is that I always had an ability to see a path, right? I would see a, a vision or an entity or a service that I think we could, ultimately grow or get to. And I could see the path to get there, but I found myself struggling with how to articulate that path in a way that it would make business sense to those who were around me. And so really the spark that drove the ability for me to jump is that my kids were older, and we were in a financial position that we could take that leap. So I was very fortunate to purchase the organization from a woman who started it in her basement. Again, she had started the company with herself and had a civil engineering background. And she wanted to run for political office and wanted to step aside and invite somebody else to be a part of business ownership. So that was in 2019 approximately that I joined her and finalized the purchase. And now we are a company of 40. So we've had some significant growth in the last 3 or 4 years, and that's by design. That's what we wanted.
Well, that's interesting. So it was another woman-owned business that you
It
purchased.
was,
Was that
yes.
part of what attracted you to professional engineering services?
For sure. Yeah, that was part of it. But really, it was kind of the identification of a culture that had compassion and empathy and a sincere um, resolve for the people that were a part of the organization. So when I spoke with the former owner prior to actually making the jump to purchase the company, I talked to other companies that were interested in selling too, because I knew that was the direction I was likely going to go. Had considered starting something from scratch, but thought, from an age perspective and kind of having the name recognition of um, having a known business might be a valuable step to do that. She was the only one who said to me, please make me a promise that you'll take care of the people that work there. And that was interesting. I had talked to, maybe a half a dozen other companies, and out of 6 or 7 companies, she was the only one that really brought that issue forward. And that told me that there was a culture there that meant something. And that was something I wanted to be a part of and grow.
So culture is super important to organizations. You mentioned that she had asked you, say, hey, promise me you'll take care of the people, right?
Yep.
What were some of the other elements of the culture that really made this the right fit for you?
That's a great question. So, one of the things in this business, so we don't sell per se a produced product, right? I don't manufacture something and sell it as an end result. Our product is our people, right? And so it's important in our business that we have sincerity and authenticity in the way in which we work, because people are messy creatures. We all buy products and services from other people we like working with. And so, especially in the engineering space, my opinion only, I feel like our buyers look at engineering companies as technically equivalent, right? You're an engineer, you must know what you're talking about. Well, the only thing that makes us different is the way people feel when they work with us. And I have to really believe that that culture emanates from every person who works here. We know that values of follow through and consistency and technical aptitude, certainly. Um, but things like, responsiveness and assurance to adherence of guidelines and experience and all of those details that are part of your daily activities are something that we do intrinsically and a part of our habits and a part of our values. That to me speaks volumes. And our growth, in my opinion, is a part of reflection of that success, because they know that when they work with us, and that might mean me, it might mean one of the other 39 people here, that they're going to get the same consistent value in that product or service that they're purchasing. And to me, that's very important. I have to be able to work with something that I believe in and that I can, confidently know that will have consistent benefit and value to each of the projects we're fortunate to be a part of.
Well, I would expect in your business, it's probably important that you have repeat business from the same customers or the same clientele.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, very important. I can post all the lovely information I would like on LinkedIn, and that's wonderful. There's thoughtful reflection on project successes that we can share with the world, but nobody's going to come to LinkedIn and decide, I think I'll work with them because they posted quite a nice article on how to build a bridge. It has to be that you have experience or confidence in that collection of team members in order to deliver that service. And we're often part of a team. We're not the only consultant on a project. And so it's very important that we understand how to work on a team, how to understand how to ask questions, understand how to deliver value. And with follow through and integrity, those pieces come very clearly to the top or the surface when you're dealing with public infrastructure.
Well, thank you for that. I'm going to pivot a little bit and talk a little bit about, you purchased a business and you said now you've grown it to 40 employees. Can you comment a little bit about what that work-life balance was like? And has it changed at all with where you're at today?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, being female, I will tell you that oftentimes there's this elusive dream of having this work-life balance, especially if you're in a leadership position. And I've told you already, I'm been doing this work for the last 30 years. My husband and I have 2 grown children, and we are very fortunate that those children have had success in their advancement. But at no point am I going to go back and tell you that I had everything figured out, right? Because I don't know how some days you navigate through it. But I will tell you this, something that my mom said to me as a working mom in the healthcare industry many years ago. She said, you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's true. You really can't. You have to make sure that you have the ability to sustain whatever level of balance that you are currently pursuing. And I don't think that should be different, whether you're male or female or have children or don't have children. It should be something that, your business is important. Your business has a lot of need and a lot of demands for your attention. So too does your family and your friendships and all of the social circles that you have in your lives. But the important part to remember is, in my opinion, at the end of your life, when we all end up in the same, end result, where none of us are getting out of here alive. No one's standing over your grave per se from your work, right? Your clients probably aren't standing over your grave. They're not sad that you're not going to be there at Christmas. It's your family or your spouse or your loved ones or your friends. Those are the ones who really you have the ability to make an impression on long term. So certainly prioritize your business. I'm not telling you not to, but not at the cost, in my opinion, of prioritizing everything that is non-business related, because someday hopefully your business is successful and you can retire and either turn that over to someone else or sell it or whatever you're going to do. But there's a whole lot of life that is a part of you in addition to a successful business. So
Now, that's well said. I like that statement, though. You can't pour from an empty cup. So that's the
that's
first
right.
time I've heard that. So thank you for sharing that today. So let's talk about how you stay kind of adaptable, open to change, or how do you remain innovative in your industry?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, it makes a person reflect when you go into a business ownership environment. I had 30 years of experience. I have a master's in business administration. I thought I kind of knew what I was doing. Well, first of all, I did not. So let me just put that disclaimer on. I'm still learning every day. And that's okay. It's okay to learn. But I think the adaptability or openness to change is one that you really have to recognize as a business owner, especially in a small business. I don't have an accounting department, a marketing department, a human resources department, an administrative support department. We aren't big enough for any of those things. So you have to be able to ask questions and remain curious enough to understand the basics of what's involved with a particular decision, but not be the bottleneck where you have to do everything either. You have to have trust. You have to have the ability to be confident in the people who are surrounding you, that A, they're likely going to do a better job than you would anyway, but B, that you've laid the groundwork in building cohesion and leadership within that company, that they can deliver the quality or sometimes better than what you would expect through the processes that you have an overview or a high level knowledge of how that's happening. So, being in a small business environment, I think we're well positioned many times compared to a larger business because we can be nimble and flexible and change an approach in order to meet a client's needs. But we have to be resilient in the core values that we've built and really be okay with saying, I understand that's what you want. These are the boundaries or the parameters that I have to live by, or we won't be successful. And so, really understanding, especially in a client relationship, that they understand you're doing everything you have the ability to flex on, but you can't compromise your values or integrity in order to meet their demands because they're within the constraints of whatever they're looking for as well. And I found that most people are mature enough to have that conversation. And sometimes, not always, and certainly I hope not frequently, there may be times when you're not the best fit for that solution. And it's got to be within your purview as an owner to say, it's too much risk. We can't assume the risk for this potential reward that exists in this particular opportunity. And we don't talk a lot about that in business, right? We always talk about the next thing, but that's important to also understand that you have to be able to know when the risk is too great for the overall success of not only you as a business owner, but the folks who all work with you and depend on the viability and success of your business as well.
Well, I think just knowing, sometimes it's okay to say no to something that doesn't agree with what your capabilities are or what your values are, right?
Right.
And I think that's super, super important. So I'm going to ask my little magic wand question, which is if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about your business, what would that be or what could that possibly be?
Oh, that's a great question. I think, you know, the hard part about small businesses is I have 100 ideas a day that I could um, deploy or engage or start, right? Because you get a little momentum and then, boy, you're really on fire. You're excited. But there's this little thing in business called capital. And unfortunately, cash flow is the indicator of all things new and innovative, right? So if I could wave a magic wand over my business and have unlimited capital, we could do a whole lot more. But unfortunately, we don't have that magic wand. So cash flow and managing that successfully is a part of a successful business. And it's an important part. It's a part that we really are mindful of, not necessarily because there's anything wrong, but because we don't want there to be something wrong in the future either. So managing growth balanced with managing cash flow, that's probably the biggest challenge of any small business that I'm aware of.
And I think, as you said, you could come up with 100 different ideas, right? But understanding how those ideas fit with your priorities and your goals and longer term strategies you have for your business is probably as essential as having unlimitless capital.
Yeah.
Good. So talking a little bit about future plans and goals, could you offer
Mhm.
us maybe a glimpse into your future plans and goals that you have for professional engineering services?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So we are, as I mentioned, when I joined the company, we had about 15 people. So we've tripled plus or minus in our growth strategy. And we're on a kind of a growing stretch. I sort of think we were in the founder and the original intent that she had was in a way that has changed a bit. We were a great company for a 10 to 15 person organization, but we really needed some processes and systems to be implemented in order to get us to a next level of growth. And so I sort of capture us in the adolescent stage of our growth cycle. We're not quite to that prime stage where, in my opinion, we'll be functioning at full capacity, but we're definitely growing. And I can um, foresee that the runway of that growth is still on the open market, and I'm very excited about that. It's a good day to be in infrastructure, and I hope that whether you were listening to this today or you were listening to it 5 years from now, that statement would ring true. But that potential for infrastructure and the ability to build infrastructure well is, in my opinion, one of the things that um, are driving that growth, right? Because we understand how to build it, we understand how to build it well, and there's a need for that skilled support and long-term trusted partnership out in the marketplace. And I hope to capitalize on that need as professional engineering services for a long time.
I absolutely love the fact that you brought up what we refer to in my business as the founder's trap, right? The
Yeah,
place where you get your business about as far as you can go, and then you got to start investing in systems and processes and people to help you continue to grow because there's more growth out there. And so I just love, I'm eating that up. It's like, oh man, that's in my bailiwick. Okay, so
that's great.
knowing that this show is directed towards people who are in the process of either starting up a business or maybe looking to buy an existing business, do you have any final thoughts or words of advice you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, um, I would say a couple of things. First of all, there's never going to be a perfect time, right? So I was for 30 years thinking, well, when this happens or this happens, I'm going to do this. And those things come and go, and you have to just be all in whenever it's the right time for you. So I wouldn't tell you that when it's a down economy, that's better to start a business, or when the economy is thriving, that's a better time to start the business, or when your kids are small, that's a good time, or when your kids grow up, that's a good time. It really is dependent on you, because I will promise you, you will never work harder for anybody else than you will within your own business. That is clear to me today, as it was 5 years ago, and will be the way it is until I'm done with my career. I'm confident about that. But the glorious part about working hard for yourself is that you also have the ability to have um, influence over the risk in which you're comfortable taking. So the 50-something-year-old me is definitely in a different risk tolerance mode than the 20-something was, or the 30-something. And so being able to have influence over those risk managed decisions, and to be able to say, I can have an impact here, and this is something I know I can accomplish. There's freedom in that, and there's validation in that. So if you're getting into business to make boatloads of money, that's wonderful. I wish you all the best of success. I can't say that that's been the case in the civil engineering space. But I can tell you that regardless of the money side of it, which still needs to be there, it still needs to sustain profitability. More than that, it's been a desire to see an opportunity, to know competently that you can do something better, leave value wherever you and your organization are going to work. And then more importantly, know that you can make mistakes. It's okay. We're not all going to be perfect in every aspect of our business, but don't ever give up, right? Because it's going to be hard. There's going to be days, in my opinion, that you're going to want to cash it in and forget about it. But I'm encouraging you not to give up, because it's not going to be any easier anywhere else. It's just going to be less rewarding. You're going to work hard no matter where you are. But the reward at the end of the day is you can start to see some of the impact that you had a part of influencing in that business. And I think that's really the value. In my mind, if you're getting into it to just make a bunch of money, that's great, but that isn't the driving force that's going to keep you propelling forward when things are tough. What's going to keep you propelling forward is the ability to have an influence, or to create a space where folks can be successful, and you see the joy on their faces when they accomplish something. Those are the pieces that propel you forward in those tough days. Um, when I was early on in my career, somebody gave me a coaster, and it was a quote by Winston Churchill that said, "Never, never, never give up." And I keep that coaster on my desk every day, and I put whatever beverage I happen to be consuming that day on that coaster. And it's the truth. And I can just tell you, no matter how tough it gets, no matter how you thought it was going to be, and it's so wholeheartedly different than that, it's okay. It's all right, because you're going to work harder than anybody else would at making that successful. And the part that's going to make you different is that you're not going to give up. You're going to keep at it until it's successful. So that would be my advice, is just never give up.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for your time today, Jennifer. It was great meeting you and learning more about your entrepreneurial and business purchase journey. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.